Oh, really? Is a foreign government going to invade the U.S.? Headline, U.S. Army kill team. It's turned out that was lies about Gaddafi shooting innocent civilians that weren't attacking, not defending the guy. It's a fact. It turns out he didn't run to Venezuela. He didn't run to Zimbabwe. It's just all lies. U.S. Army kill team in Afghanistan posed for photos of murdered civilians, including children. Commanders brace for backlash of anti-U.S. sentiment that could be more damaging than Abu Ghraib scandal. Commanders in Afghanistan are bracing themselves, and they've now released the photos. We'll put it back on screen. Looks like about a 12-year-old in civilian clothes, dead, with a U.S. troop feeling really manly right now. I mean, he shot him, and it's fun. Senior officials at NATO's International Security Assistance Force in Kabul have compared the pictures published by German Newsweek Der Spiegel to the images of U.S. soldiers abusing prisoners in Abu Ghraib in Iraq, which sparked waves of anti-U.S. protest. Notice it was time to pull out of Afghanistan. It's like it was time to pull out of Iraq in 2005. And so they release the Abu Ghraib photos. They want the rebellion. British SAS was caught in 2006. London Guardian, Associated Press, dressed up like Sunnis shooting and killing Shiites in Basra, Iraq. This is a multi-trillion-dollar operation for the bankers. They create the entire war. They fund the terrorists. They fund the criminal groups. They fund attacks that's come out on our own troops by mercenaries. You got to have some kill numbers. They know the troops are going to have a delayed death from the DU. This is full spectrum war against everyone by the globalist, playing different tribes, different religions, different groups off against each other. Full spectrum dominance. Get into the mind of the globalist. Understand, oh, but the armies apologize, so it's okay. Does that mean Gaddafi can apologize and the invasion won't have to happen? And remember, they lied and said there was no Western involvement in the rebels a month ago in Libya. Now it turns out the whole thing was run by the West, just like the whole thing against Mubarak was run, because it turns out he didn't want to go along with the Libya attack, the Iran attack. Are you guys calling Tarpley? He's good for 130. Excellent job. I forgot to tell you I want him. Good job. Tarpley absolutely called this in 2008 during the campaign. He said Obama is going to win. This is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to fund destabilization groups in all the Arab countries, and then there's going to be a giant destabilization and a huge war that could lead to World War III. And exactly what he said happened. We even, in Obama deception, show the maps and how they would do it. Of course, Tarpley, we could give him credit, and he does deserve it because he actually read what Brzezinski Brzezinski said, what the Israelis in the 80s talked about, a plan to destabilize all the Arab countries, including allies, and overthrow them, and then have a war with the Al-Qaeda they put in. That'll make some money for the defense contractors. These guys, I remember 2-3 years ago, it was coming out about Blackwater murdering people for fun, and the drugs and the armaments and the reports of staging events as a pretext for the West to stay in those countries. People would send me emails, or I even ran into family who were like, Blackwater's pro-America, doing what the Army can't do. Family I have in the military. And now it turns out all of it was true. And they've moved to the Middle East, where they can't be extradited. And I remember 3 months ago, all these reports about why is Blackwater moving into North Africa? Why have they signed a deal with a mercenary group even bigger than them out of South Africa that's so secret, details aren't even known about them? Super hardcore mercs. Because they knew about the new bonus time coming. You better believe there's merc forces, not just SAS and other regular military out of England, are all over Libya right now. And they got their rear end handed to them by Muammar Gaddafi, who's actually a military guy. He's a bold scrapper, folks. He took over when he was 20-something years old. What was he, 27 when he took over? Overthrew a monarchy? And he says, I'm going down. He says, I'm going down, I will die here. And he said, it's lies, I haven't left Tripoli. Remember a month ago, and then 2 weeks ago, and then They always keep lying to kind of bolster the rebel forces. Gaddafi's fled, we've won, to try to create a mass panic. And he said, I haven't left, I will die here. Bring it. Bring it. Well, the globalists have brought it. And this is what he said to Obama in a statement today. To my dear Obama, our son, saying he's a son of Africa, says Gaddafi, defending attacks on rebels. No, he's a son of J.P. Morgan, Chase, Goldman Sachs. Gotta get that straight, Gaddafi. To my dear son, our son, says Gaddafi, defending attacks on rebels. He went on to say, if you were having uprisings against your capital, what would you do in America? Well, we know. Even if they were legitimate, they would mow down citizens, and it would be hailed as a wonderful act. The feds would then set off truck bombs outside public schools to target children and blame the groups they'd mowed down for bombing the children. That's an easy equation. If the globalists have to mow Americans down, they will simultaneously detonate weapons, blaming it on domestic groups. They will then go around and arrest all the patriot leaders, including myself. Don't think that's not what they're moving towards. If things get so bad in the Depression that you uprise, they will commit atrocities and blame it on you. It is in the Army handbook leaked by WikiLeaks 3 years ago. The Army does not deny it's theirs. They admit it's theirs, teaching Army captains and above who are in special ops, black ops, how to stage terror. Here's your canteen, here's your M16, here's your field manual. Now here's how you stage terror attacks. It seems to work best when you kill some kids. You're a real man, aren't you? That's why you've moved up to this level. Don't worry, we're going to have you shipping narcotics into America after a few tours doing this overseas. They test them, and they create... And again, folks, I've had family, I'm just going to leave it at that, who their favorite place to recruit is the Army, who was a low-level Army officer, recruited by the CIA when he got out of the Army, and they said, first, for your training, we're going to send you to Chicago. And the stuff was so horrible that this family member told my dad, I know the family member, they don't tell me this stuff, that he just said he refused to do it after a month. But it was narcotics trafficking, things even worse. Who do you think pulls the hits in America? The Army, folks. They've got hundreds of thousands of former military service people. They've got hitmen in every neighborhood. Okay? The U.S. Army is only the induction center for the Black Op Army of the New World Order. I hope you realize that. Their favorite place to recruit is Texas. They love Texans. I've got that from multiple sources. And they love farm boys. And they get them all over the Midwest, folks. And they give them power, money, you name it. And it is horrible, ladies and gentlemen. This country has been... What did Smedley Butler, Marine Corps Major General, set to be the Marine Corps Commandant, two-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner, who overthrew more than 10 third world nations? He was approached by Prescott Bush. He was approached by the Harrimans. He played along for 2 months with the plan for him to recruit 500,000 men. They already had over 100,000, former military. Police chiefs on the payroll. Even at the time, liquor running, narcotics running. And he was to lead 500,000 men in a fascist coup over America to link up with Hitler. He played along long enough to find out the full plot. He was to be the new dictator, the president. Just like George Washington, after his tour in office, they said, please come back, do another term. And he said, no, I've done 2. I'm going back to my farm. And they came to Butler and they said, you're going to be president. You're a war hero. You're totally loved. You ready for this, sir? He said, yeah, I'm ready. Now, they've already done it. You need to understand that. They run both houses. They run almost all the Congress. Ron Paul has said here on the air that he is in danger. We brought that up. They're raping and robbing everything. I mean, folks, in my own family, I know multiple people recruited who then got out and did not go along with it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is everywhere. This is ubiquitous. They've got over 500,000 in InfraGard. They've got the clergy response teams recruited by this. This is an army of pure evil. Why do you think 11 years ago, now almost 12, that Prudential and others could meet with the VA and sign a secret deal to take all benefits from World War II vets through current vets that they have them pay into for death insurance. Why do you think you're getting the news that they've stolen most of the money out of the private and public pension funds? Because they don't care. Because they've got Homeland Security out recruiting doctors, lawyers, school teachers, pastors to spy on their neighbors, to spy on their students. Because they've recruited hundreds of thousands of former military personnel, predominantly U.S. Army, to form a giant murderous mafia who they pay out of the $500 billion in narcotics money each year. America is a giant prison. We've got more prisons than any other country in the world. We're a giant police state. All that's left is free speech, that vestige, and our Second Amendment that the forefathers put in place as an emergency system against tyranny. All we've got is our courage. The globalists don't care about those military men that they've got as attack dogs. They bathe them in DU and deadly vaccines. They don't care about their own children. This whole new war is a good smokescreen from Fukushima and the ongoing radiation being belched into the air. 20+ times safe radiation levels reported in the food. 26 times in Japan. Radioactive iodine in the water. Not hearing about that now. More of that coming up in the next hour. And this precedent for the UN to pass a resolution on Thursday night, and within 48 hours, the bombing had begun, with ground forces there lasing the targets, telling you it was a natural uprising by the Libyans. You think it's a real uprising targeting key installations in Syria right now? The Syrians are corrupt. Gaddafi's corrupt, but do we have the big corrupt bankers that run us launch wars against them so they can get their oil and get beachheads to take over the rest of the Middle East that we've all got to pay for? Wrangle is calling again for a national draft. That little crook. I'm speechless at this point. But you've got Gaddafi saying, to my dear Obama, our son, says Gaddafi defending attacks on rebels, calling Obama, our son, leader Muammar Gaddafi, sent a message to the U.S. president defending his decision to attack the rebels, fighting to overthrow him. Gaddafi, 68, also wrote a letter to French and British leaders in the UN General Assembly saying the Security Council resolution was void and violated the UN Charter, warning them that they would regret any intervention. That's exactly what they want, Gaddafi, is for you to launch weapons across the Mediterranean into Europe so they can invade you. Libya is not for you. Libya is for Libyans, he said. No, it's for the New World Order. Details of Gaddafi's letters were released by the Libyan government spokesman at a news conference in Tripoli. Defending his decision to attack rebels, Gaddafi told Obama, Al-Qaeda is an armed organization passing through Algeria, Mali. What would you do if you found them controlling American cities with power and weapons? Well, Gaddafi, you know they're running them. What would you do? So I can follow your example. Trying to strike a personal note, Gaddafi prefaced his letter saying, to our son, His Excellency Mr. Barack Hussein Obama, I have said to you before, who they've met and hugged, that even if Libya and the United States of America enter into war, God forbid, you always remain our son. Your picture will not be changed. In his letter to Nicolas Sarkozy, David Cameron, and Ban Ki-moon, Gaddafi said, Libya is not yours. Libya is for Libyans. The Security Council of the Revolution is void because it is not, according to the Charter, to interfere with internal affairs of a country.